Okay, thank you, Jay. So now it's my pleasure to announce our main speaker. And I know the main speaker usually occurs later on in the program, but this gentleman, due to his scheduling and having to hit the airwaves shortly, we have him speaking first today. So, Bill LuMaye grew up in Green Bay, Wisconsin. He now calls Raleigh home with his wife Jen, son Ben, and daughter Nicole. His radio career began in 1980 in his hometown. And if you listen to him on WPTF, you will easily hear that his passion is talk radio. Bill was the first radio host to be embedded with our troops in Iraq, broadcasting live the week before Christmas 2003. The men and women of the 432nd Civil Affairs Unit celebrated the capture of Saddam, dodged incoming RPG shells, and talked with their loved ones back home via the Bill LuMaye Show, all live from Iraq. News Radio 680 WPTF welcomed the Bill LuMaye Show to North Carolina in 2004. While anchoring the afternoon drive slot on weekdays, Bill has continued to bring the news of the world to the Triangle airwaves. He returned to Iraq in 2006, where he was embedded with the Iraqi First Army. Bill talked with Generals Casey and Pace in Baghdad and lived with our brave troops in camps throughout the Sunni Triangle, as well as in the IZ zone in Baghdad. Two additional noteworthy accomplishments include when he made a live broadcast from the Pentagon for the 5-year anniversary of 9/11, and he was just one of 30 talk shows in the nation invited to the White House Radio Days event. Bill LuMaye is committed to bringing us first-hand accounts from today's newsmakers, wherever they may be in the world. He has a deep commitment to family, a deep pride in our country, belief in the freedom of expression, and he is a strong advocate for our Second Amendment rights. Bill LuMaye is defender of the American way. Help me welcome him, please.
Well, hello everyone. I first want to start by thanking Paul Vallone and his organization, which is phenomenal. I mean, I don't have enough words to thank what Grassroots North Carolina does, and of course other organizations, as we continue to fight the erosion of our Second Amendment. And if you wouldn't mind, a big round of applause for Paul Vallone and the organizers of this event. It's really awesome. And of course you, the attendees. I think a lot of you have had an opportunity to meet with your legislators. I hope they greeted you with great warmth and open minds, and I hope that you were able to instill upon them that they have the power to protect you from an overreaching federal government. You know, I've been watching a lot of the news because it's my job, and I do it so you don't have to, but the gun debate is something we've been talking an awful lot about, and I've noticed that the gun control people have a rather unusual perspective of each and every one of you. They think of you as radical, they think of you as right-wingers, a little crazy, a little nutty, a little dangerous. You're gun-toting, redneck, Bible-thumping survivors. God bless you for that. I've never been more proud to be with any group of people. Honest to goodness, I feel right at home.
You're safe.
I know I'm safe, although I have nothing in mind. It'd be nice if there would be something in the holster today.
That's right.
Well, there was something a listener brought up yesterday. It was in the Holly Springs Sun, and it was the editor, Gardner editor, wrote a piece on the Second Amendment. He was talking about, you know, we don't need it anymore because there are no threats. And he said this, he said, in 1791, when the Second Amendment was passed, early Americans faced many problems you can ascertain from a quick viewing of Pocahontas. Theft, murder, fear of English militia or Native American revolt, as well as the fear of many white slave uprisings. The Second Amendment was created to protect the early colonies from the dangers of the world. Now, I don't know where he lives, but there are rainbows and there are puppy dogs. I know that. The names may have changed, but the threats are still there. But clearly, the Second Amendment was never meant for those purposes. How many Americans do you think believe this today, though? How many legislators? I would say an awful lot of them, if not the vast majority of them. And a lot of them are gun owners. So that knowledge of the Second Amendment, combined with the complete void of historical fact, makes for a dangerous combination, I think. And history speaks quite well about what the Second Amendment is all about. Founding fathers agreed that an armed population makes for good government. right? Numerous quotes from the Revolutionary era make that extremely clear. In fact, the preamble of the Constitution reads this way. Of the Bill of Rights. The conventions of the number of states having the time of their adopting the Constitution expressed a desire in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its power that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as extending the ground of public confidence in the government, will best assure the beneficent of its institutions. So what does that mean? Here's Bill's version of history. Back in the day, people were well informed, and this was something that they discussed openly in the papers, whether it be the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers. The populace at that time, very intelligent, were very well read, something that we could work on with that building over there with today's population. But that's another discussion. But they all knew this. They knew that men were corruptible. They were hungry for power. They didn't trust humans. Now, the Constitution was put in paper form. It's very easy to read. And they were trying to get the states to ratify it. And they said, listen, the Constitution, it's here, it's very limited. And they said, but you know what, I still don't believe that somewhere down the road, future generations aren't going to look at this and say, I think it means this. And they said, there's no way that can happen. It's enumerated. Look, we put numbers with hyphens, and there's the sentence, and they used yellow highlighter. Well, they would have if they had it. That's how specific the Constitution is. But the other side said, well, listen, I think it was New York saying, we still would like something more in order to vote for this Constitution. And thus, the Bill of Rights was born. And that Bill of Rights is not there for your benefit in the sense that it's granting you rights. You already have those rights. It's there to prevent the government from taking those rights away. Right? Our founders were brilliant. The people of the time, as they ratified this Constitution, they knew that what they were creating was unique in history. They knew that if men granted rights to men, that men could take those rights away. So we were given these rights by our God, our Creator, or nature, depending on your religious beliefs.
You are right.
But that's in essence what this country was founded on. And the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness, and all of that, I think, is absolutely dependent on the Second Amendment. Because without that, I'm not sure the rest of the freedoms would be around very long.
Yeah.
Among our fellow Americans, as they look at things, I think their perspective of history is based on their lifespan. And I understand my life is important to me. It's a priority in my life, but certainly there are a lot of things happened in this world prior to me becoming a part of it, and will happen long after I'm gone. And one of the things that we fail in this country is the historical perspective on things. And our fellow Americans really, they can't recognize tyranny. I think our founding fathers certainly did, and the new Americans at that time did, because they lived through it and they took on the most powerful country on the planet. And they did that because they had the weapons available to them in order to defeat a country that, quite honestly, without God's help, I don't think they would have defeated in normal terms. So they understood what the Second Amendment was all about. Now look at how far we've come. The king has decided that we must buy insurance. And if we do not buy this insurance, the king will send his army to make us pay the king's penalty. This is the United States of America. I mention this because of all the people out there, like Joe Scarborough, who mentions he's a conservative and our regulators, believes there's no need for the Second Amendment. The king has ordered, well, he decides if you can fly or not, I guess. I'm not sure how that happens, but he'll decide if you can fly. And if he feels you're a threat, ladies and gentlemen, he'll decide whether or not he'll just take you away. The National Defense Appropriations Act gives him the ability to whisk you away without due process for an indefinite period of time. And if you're really a threat, he'll just kill you. All right, now this is on NBC today. Finally, they're beginning to report this. This is the country we live in today, and I don't know how you describe that, but I think that's tyrannical.
It is. Yes, it's the right word.
So
when he walks on that water, I'll buy my insurance.
Yes. God bless you. So who's the enemy? Did you see this piece from West Point, their think tank?
Yes.
They described, they actually issued a warning to America. And it says the latest threat to America are far-right groups, such as the Anti-Federalist Movement, which supports civil activism, individual freedom, and self-government. Do you know anybody like that?
China, Russia. Yes.
So, the Department of Homeland Security concurs, by the way. So if you have a bumper sticker on your car, beware of the fact that you are now proclaimed enemy of the state. And we also live in a country that monitors all of our electronic media, our phones, our Xboxes, our TV, you name it, they're all over this. So we live in a time where I think the Second Amendment may be more important than virtually any time in history. It's important to know that our founders also discussed this. In fact, without getting into historical details, they lived it. And the what if is, what if the Congress actually decided to pass an unconstitutional law? Hard to believe they would do that, but let's say they did. And then the president signed this law. And then the Supreme Court concurred. What is it that the people can do, ladies and gentlemen?
Throw the bombs out.
You know, that's funny. That's what, some of the great minds of our time said. And that is, the state should come between you and the federal government. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It's the state that nullifies an unconstitutional law. Whether it be Obamacare, whether it be due process or the lack thereof, or an erosion of your Second Amendment rights. It is the state that stands between you and the federal government. And by the way, I don't know if you've noticed, the Republicans control the legislature, and there is a Republican governor for the first time in over 100 years. I think that's before even public education and taxes, and I think the states were still appointing their senators. That's how long it's been. But the Republicans talk about the Constitution all the time. They talk about protecting us. They talk about taking care of Obamacare. And I have no reason to doubt them at this point. I would like them to walk the walk now.
Amen.
Ann Coulter, I don't know if you saw her last night on Hannity, but she put it in very simplistic form. But it's an easy thing to understand. Many people have said it, but she said as this erosion of the Second Amendment, and right now they're focusing on background checks, he said, universal background checks lead to universal registration, that lead to universal confiscation, that leads to universal extermination. And people think you're crazy for saying that. They ought to open a history book. Because there's plenty of examples of that happening in our lifetime, quite honestly. So we have a process by which we must educate not only the American people but our legislators and let them know that this is an important issue to us and that we are not going to compromise, we are not going to be reasonable. To think that reasonable people would reasonably compromise their God-given rights away is unreasonable to me. So James Madison said it best. He said, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. A well-regulated militia composed of the people trained to arms is the best and most natural defense of a free country. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie, and it's no more, I mean, it's as true today as it was when he said it. So I want to thank you for what you're doing here today. I thank you for the fight, and thank you for allowing me to, this brief moment, to at least speak to you, and God bless each and every one of you. And go get them. They're waiting for you. Go talk to them. Thank you very much.